This is my Honda Jazz, which I'm currently in the process of fitting a Honda Civic Type R engine into. The engine's sat just over there, and in this video, we're hoping to get it into the car, first start, and maybe even a cheeky first drive.
In the first episode, we removed the Jazz's original 1.4 engine. We also added chassis notches to the Jazz so that the physically larger engine is able to fit in the bay correctly. We also added a new clutch, a new timing chain, and a new cam cover to our new engine as well.
And it's in this video things are going to get really interesting because we're going to get the engine into the car using our Hasport mounts here, we'll get to that in just a second, and go for a first start up. Let's get to it. So one challenge we do have with the Jazz engine bay being so tight is the thermostat housing on the K20. It points at a sort of 5 o'clock angle, and as a result of that, it ends up hitting the front of the subframe. So we've got this, a swivel thermostat housing. How clever.
So the plan here was just to get the engine positioned correctly, tightened down enough so that we could lift it on the ramp and determine if we had clearance all around. But before long, the engine was in.
I'll do my best to show you this, but it's quite hard to see. The chassis notch that we put in is absolutely perfect. It's the bolt on this pulley here that tends to hit the subframe, but it's not gonna on ours. Find a hole, Gary. You're usually good at this. Is it in yet? That's all I've got.
So once we've fed that through, we could then get our Type R ECU plugged in. Now although it's a Type R ECU, it's still going to be running the Jazz fuel pump and the Jazz instrument cluster, thanks to this clever wiring harness that we've got. From there we could start to get the battery hooked up and get some power to that ECU, and also get our oil into the engine.
An absolute out and out tradition here at Garage of Grant is that whoever's car is on the ramp has to supply the dinner, which is usually pizza. And on that note, look at how well a large pizza fits in the frunk of an R8. Tell me they didn't think that through. So here we go. It's reached the inevitable moment. Then we're going to turn the key and see what happens. Cross our fingers here. Right, we ready?
Go for it.
Nothing we're forgetting.
Turn the fucking key.
Ready? Oh.
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, so attempt number 1, no crank whatsoever. It just dies, which we're thinking is possibly an earth. So now we've just manually got a wire touching onto the chassis. Let's try again, take 2. Earth problem.
So this did confirm to us that it was an earth problem, but why wasn't it starting? We persevered with it.
Aye, okay.
At this point, I'd be lying to say I wasn't starting to worry a little bit.
So probably a good point for an update now. It's cranking, but it will not fire. I think it's probably an earth problem, and that's further supported by the fact that it blew the dash fuse. We've got new fuses to go in, and also the hybrid racing earth kit. Let's hope this does the business and we get this started tonight.
In the back of my mind, I couldn't help but think, was this maybe an inherent problem with the engine? We've never seen it run. Have we maybe set the wire pinning up wrong and it just wasn't right? But then came the moment of truth.
Right, we ready? Ready? Sounds healthy. That's it.
No way.
Yes.
Did you hear that? I shit myself. What's that noise?
Oh, let me tell you, I am so relieved that that started. Let me show you what the problem was. It turned out to be the earths all along, so now We've got a big beefy one on the battery here. You might recall from the previous bit of footage, Gary was just holding a bit of wire onto the chassis, obviously not good enough. I did read that the K20 is quite picky about where its earths are. We've got one here, we've got one on the intake, and sure enough, it fired up as you've seen. Now, it's just a case of getting everything put back together, and we'll get this thing out of drive. Let's do it. So with the engine now running, all we need to do is build everything back up. I'd say all we do as if it's some trivial task, but we've got a whole host of things, so I thought we'd make a bit of a list, and I'm actually going to add something else to it. Gearbox oil, and let's put that in red so we don't take it for a blast with a dry gearbox.
First up was the shifter box. Now I'm using an aftermarket DC5 shifter box here, as well as aftermarket cables, and I'm delighted to say everything fitted like a dream. Once they were in place, we could get the 421 manifold in and then turn our attention to cooling. Now although I got a new radiator, I had to use the original radiator fans, so quickly took them off the old radiator, strapped them onto the new one, and good to go. Boom, cooling system on, no leaks, on to the next job, which is going to be drive shafts. And what we need here is something actually quite unique. Let me explain. So on this side, we need something that fits the EP3 gearbox, but on this side, we need something that fits the original Jazz hubs. And thankfully, I think we've got a solution here. So we're going to use the original EP3 shafts. Obviously, that's the correct size for the EP3 gearbox. But on this side, we're going to knock these old CVs off, and we're going to use the CV from a B series Honda, because that's got the same shaft diameter as the EP3, so it should fit these shafts, but it's got the same hub diameter as the Jazz. It's all a bit complicated, but I think it's going to work. Let's try. Now for those of you who have never fitted a CV joint before, it's actually a bit of a disconcerting process. You need to hammer the old ones off the shaft and then hammer the new one back onto that same shaft. Once you've got it on there, we need to fill it with CV grease. This stuff is impossible to get off your hands, by the way. Make sure you're wearing gloves. And then from there, we can get it bolted back into the car.
So we're just putting the finishing touches on this Jazz before we get it out and try driving it for the first time. It all feels a little bit risky, but at least when I bought the car, I seen its full history, so I know that wasn't a risk because I used Vehicle Score. Visit vehiclescore.co.uk's website and put the plate of the car that you're interested in buying into their system. It will tell you all the good and bad points for completely free, and if you are serious about buying it, make sure you purchase one of their paid HPI reports. I'll put a 15% discount voucher in the description below. Let's get this torqued down and out.
What was that?
We have pretty much got everything finished, but not finished. I mean, get a look at the ECU for one. This is a good representation of where we're at with the car. Everything works, but it's a bit untidy and in need of finishing off. Right now we're having a look at this gearbox because although it feels great, I think it might just be slightly touching a gear. So we're going to get the battery on, we're going to fire it up and just get this adjusted correctly. Right, moving up. Sounds good. For not having an exhaust, it sounds good. The only problem is, see where that manifold comes round and exits? There's a hole in the floor. So I'm getting absolutely gassed. Just in case measures. The car is done to the point where things just need tidied up, so it should drive normally, it should idle normally. I'm going to mention as well, everything that you see us do here is private land. We're not taking a car on the road like this, just in case there's anyone in the comments giving me shit for it. Right, let's go.
Can you swear?
Yeah, baby. I'm having to feather the throttle ever so slightly. Like, it's really hard to have the car not take off. It's fast. Fucking hell. Right up to the hose. So there we go, it works, it lives, it drives. Obviously, we can't take this on the road because it's not got an exhaust on it. That's going to be part of episode 3. So if you want to see me getting this thing out on the road and having a bit of fun with it, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave your thoughts below, and I'll see you for episode 3.